Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on less traffic, more revenue, which is everyone's favorite topic in digital marketing, SEO, PPC right now. PPC is probably still fine, mostly SEO and digital marketing. My name is Dana DiTomaso. I am the founder and lead instructor at KP Playbook, and I work primarily in analytics, especially GA4. And I'm going to introduce our panel today. I'm going to start with our presenter, Dale Bertrand. I've known Dale for many years. He's been an SEO specialist to Fortune 500 companies and worked with venture-backed startups around the world for 2 decades. Dale is a wealth of knowledge on this particular topic. If you haven't seen Dale speak before, you're in for a treat. And he also does a lot of training as well. And we also have Santi Clark with us today. Santi is the Director of Content Communications at Duda, where she empowers digital agencies with cutting-edge web design and development solutions, helping businesses scale efficiently using Duda's platform. And then finally, Julia. Now, she said, and I quote, "I don't really need a big intro, but what you can say, digital marketing leader, honestly. And if you don't subscribe to her Beyond the Mean newsletter, you are missing out. I strongly recommend doing that. It is one of my favorite newsletter reads. She also does the Standard Deviation podcast with Simo Ahava, and she works as the director of data at Monks. So thank you, everyone, for joining me today on this webinar. I'm really looking forward to it. And what we're going to do today for the format, so please leave questions in the chat. We're going to get to those at the end. Dale's going to take it away now with a presentation about educating AI with content optimized for search. And then once the presentation is done, we're going to take your questions and have a great panel conversation with the 4 of us. So take it away, Dale.
Well, thank you, Dan. It's a very generous introduction. So I really appreciate that. So as Dana said, hi, I'm Dale Bertrand. Just quick background on me. I've worked at the intersection of technology and marketing, so I have a technical background, but now I work in marketing. I run Fire and Spark. We're an SEO agency here in Boston. I have a background in AI. I built a supercomputer for the NSA. That's a fun story. Let's meet up and tell that story over a beer at a conference when I see you guys in person. And we've got a bunch of clients and they all have logos, so that's fun. Now, we're all here and we're all a little concerned, quite possibly, about search behavior changing. What this is about is our customers are searching for our products and services differently. I always like to think back. I'm old enough that I remember the Yellow Pages. What the Yellow Pages taught me was if I wanted to search for something like a photographer, I find a bunch of phone numbers when I go to the photography page. I call them, 1 or 2 of them calls me back, and I hired my photographer. It worked, but that's obviously not as good an experience as Google. When Google came along, Google taught us to search differently. We weren't going to a physical page book and finding the right category and calling a bunch of photographers. We were searching online where we had access to much more information. And what Google was good at was finding exactly what we needed. Now, Google taught us to search in query language. So this keyword query language, we're searching for things like best ice cream near me or steakhouse Boston. That's not exactly natural language, but it works. That's why we all gravitated toward it. And I put my Yellow Pages in the garbage can a long time ago. But now our customers, the customers that we're all targeting, are using AI platforms like ChatGPT or Google's AI overviews or AI mode or Perplexity. And what these tools allow you to do is to search in natural language. So searching in natural language, it feels like we're talking to a friend that lives in Seattle if we're looking for a restaurant in Seattle, or a travel agent that's an expert in that city if we're looking for a restaurant in that city. So we're getting better answers. We can search in a much more natural way, and it feels like what we would expect if we were just asking for advice from a friend. Now, what this really comes down to is like change is coming and we can't avoid it. And the reason why we can't avoid it as marketers is because our customers are lazy. And I'm talking like Cheetos on the couch, and I'm not even going to touch them with my hands lazy. That is a core reason why our customers are going to adopt these tools, whether we like it or not. So we can't ignore it. The AI is coming. Google just previewed AI mode. I expect AI mode to be the default Google experience by the end of the year. So change is coming. Now, one thing that many folks have missed the boat on is how search engines have already changed. And we're talking like 5-6 years ago, when search engines like Google stopped being lexical search engines. Now, lexical search engine, if you're searching with keywords, the engine is going to look for pages online that have those keywords on them. So if I was searching for sales CRM for contractors, it might surface a page that has sales CRM in the title and the word contractors on the page. But nowadays with AI, and this has happened way before generative AI, our search engines that we're targeting are semantic search engines. So they're looking for pages that are relevant to the meaning of the search, the intent behind the search. So it might surface a lead tracker page that has the word builders on it instead of contractors, because it's a better result. The information is better. And that has nothing to do with keywords. Yet, as marketers, a lot of us are still doing keyword targeting, which doesn't make much sense. Now, our customers are going to be searching with different types of search engines. So there are ranking engines. You think about old school Google that's ranking pages and basically giving us a research project. And training-based LLM, these are the generative AI models like ChatGPT that are trained on everything that's written on the web and some more stuff. But then there's these hybrid ranking LLM type systems where it's kind of like a traditional search engine, kind of like AI overviews, but we've also got an LLM. And then we have AI mode, which is something entirely different than a traditional search engine, but I'll think of it as a hybrid ranking and LLM on steroids, with just the amount of AI that they're using for Google's AI mode. Now, one of the technologies behind the generative AI and the AI search platforms that we're all targeting are vector embeddings. Now, I'm not going to get too technical with this, but basically what it's doing is vector embeddings allow you to take a word or a sentence or an entire page and compute the meaning. Basically, you translate it into a vector of numbers, and then you can do math on the semantic meaning of a query or a page or a sentence. And you can do things like find the documents that have the closest meaning, or they're semantically similar to the query. And this is like very, very basic of how search engines are working nowadays. In fact, vector embeddings are used in a lot of different places in Google search engine and in AI overviews and AI mode and ChatGPT and all of that stuff. But once you understand that this is one of the core tools, it helps you understand why relevance is so important. So when we're optimizing for AI platforms in Google's new AI mode, we're really trying to engineer relevance into our content so that it's relevant to the intent behind the query. It's relevant to the individual that's searching, and that's how AI mode works with its personalization. And also make sure that it's relevant to what our business does, our products and services, so that we can actually convert people. But vector embeddings are used under the hood, and we as marketers are going to start to use vector embeddings in our tools when we're optimizing content for these AI platforms. Now that I'm talking about SEO tools, like SEO tools have not kept up. They're still helping us do keyword targeting. They're still calculating domain authority, which is largely made up because we don't get that from Google anymore. So we need to start thinking about like what tools we're going to use to ensure and evaluate the relevance of our content to the searches that we want it to show up for. One of the ways of thinking about that is like, imagine if you got engaged. Let's say you got engaged yesterday, last night at a restaurant, and then you go to work today. You're going to have conversations with your employees, because you're going to tell them, with your employees, with your teammates, your coworkers at work. And your coworkers at work are going to tell you, they're going to give you advice because you just got engaged. So they're going to tell you how to get along with your mother-in-law. They're going to give you advice on how to save money on your wedding. This is all information that's coming up in conversation because it's relevant to your situation, but you didn't ask for it. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because the old school model of search was query response. But the new model in these conversational search engines is you're having a conversation, maybe you're asking it for information. And what we want as marketers is for our brand, our products, our services to come up in conversation for our ICP at the right time. In the same way that we would get unsolicited advice at work if we announced to our coworkers, that we just got engaged last night. Now, so then what this comes down to is like SEO is changing, and we all know that. But the way it's changing is it's no longer keyword-based search. It's more semantic search based on relevance. And then also the platforms are shifting from ranking platforms to conversational platforms. This is not a query response model. It's a conversational model. And then marketers, we are using new tools. The old tools aren't going to work anymore, the ones that have been designed for optimizing keyword targeting and content. Instead, they're new AI-based tools, vector embedding-based tools, and eventually agents that will help us as marketers to optimize for these new search platforms. Now, many of us on this call today are selling SEO because you might work with clients. You might be a solo consultant or an agency or otherwise working in the SEO industry. Now, this is going to change a bunch because remember, like, as you know, there are different types of projects that we work on. These really small ones that I expect to be fully automated. And when we're saying fully automated, you can imagine for these really small SEO projects that we as agencies are offering products that are largely delivered by AI agents. And what they're doing is they're helping to optimize websites for relevance in these new AI platforms so that the brands that we're working with, or maybe small businesses for these small projects, come up in conversation in these AI conversations. But then as we move farther up the value chain here to the much larger projects, and in my world, that's 10K a month for or more for a client project, they're still going to have human involvement. There's going to be a human account manager. There's going to be a human team that's helping to work on these. But what these humans will be doing is optimizing content for AI search and creating different types of content for AI search. So we really want to be thinking about the different types of projects that we'll be delivering as SEO agencies. And we're going to deliver this AI optimization or AI platform, AI search optimization service much, much differently from at the bottom of this range up to the top of this range. And then the other thing I want to say to those folks on here who are working at agencies is, like, which of these SEO products are going to survive? And when I say SEO product, I mean that we as an SEO agency will do lots of things, like we'll remediate a traffic drop, or we'll do link building or content development or on-page optimization, or there's a lot of stuff. Like, what I'm expecting is that local SEO will still be a thing. We're not going to be as focused on traffic drops. And then we will still be creating SEO content, but SEO content is going to look very different. It's not going to be blog articles. It's not going to be top of the funnel educational articles that we're selling to our clients. We are going to sell different types of content. And I am going to talk about a couple of those at the end of this. Now, for those of you who have not tried Google's AI mode, definitely go to Google, register for it in Google Labs. I had to use a Gmail account. I don't know if that's still true, but you probably still have to use a Gmail account in order to do that. When you do that, this is me searching for Boston restaurants with goat cheese pizza. When you do that, you'll get this AI mode button. You can click on it, and then that's when it gives you a new screen that has the AI conversation that looks a lot like ChatGPT. Definitely try it. I believe that this AI mode is the future of search. And what Google has said publicly is that they are going to move features one at a time from AI mode over to the default search experience. I think that means the default search experience is going to be AI mode by the end of the year. Now, AI mode works fundamentally differently from traditional Google search. Traditional Google search, especially if you think all the way back to like the early days of PageRank, was all about finding keywords on websites and then ranking those pages based on authority using the link structure of the web. That's a ranking algorithm. AI mode is not a ranking algorithm. A ranking algorithm is all about keywords, or at least the original version of Google's algorithm was all about keyword search, and it's about finding pages and delivering pages, and it's about like query response, answering questions. What AI mode is more of a generative information retrieval, where it's generating an answer. It's generating the next turn in the conversation. And it's doing that by understanding your query or your statement or whatever's going on. And then there's query fan out, which is a whole new concept, where AI mode will generate queries similar to the query that you entered in order to examine, in order to actually find documents and information that is related to what you're looking for, but to be able to have information that basically covers different angles on the topic that you're looking for. Then it will do reasoning, because it will assemble that information in a way that aligns with its reasoning chain. So basically, its understanding of the type of information that would satisfy the next turn in the conversation. And then it will, under the context understanding is about personalization, among other things. But the personalization aspect is really important. Like, you could imagine AI mode is calculating one of these vector embeddings about you and your histories, your past searches. For me personally, like, I'm a technologist, I'm a software guy. So the context that AI mode would understand is, like, it should give me a more technical answer if I was asking about software or programming than it would give to somebody who was less technical. That is highly personalized, and that's different from traditional search. This breaks rank tracking tools because everybody's seeing something different. And then there's content selection, where after it did query fan out and found a bunch of information related to your query, it will select which of that content it should use to draw the final answer, to summarize into the final answer or the next turn in the conversation. And then it will actually generate a response. When it's generating a response, it chooses the type of response based on the query. Like, sometimes the response should be a map or a comparison or a direct answer or whatever that is. But what I'm describing to you at very high level here, because it's much more complicated than that, is that this generative information retrieval system is quite different from, like, a query response system. It's generating an answer based on what it learned looking at the web and what it knows about you. And that's different from ranking pages. So now that we understand a little bit more about how AI mode works, how do we educate LLMs so that when they're having conversations that are relevant to our brands and our products, we come up? And what we've been looking at is, like, establishing AI presence with co-citations. I'm going to give an example of this, but making sure your brand, your product, your services appear online with frequency as much as possible related to the terms you care about. If you're Nike, you want to make sure the AI understands that you're all about sneakers and Michael Jordan and Air Jordan. And then improving visibility with PR. This is the frequency piece. So doing digital PR to get that information out on the web in the corpus of data that the AI is using to train. And then reinforcing semantic relevance. So building content that is semantically dense and semantically relevant to the queries and search intents that your customers are searching for. Now, here's an example of co-occurrence in training data. Imagine a page about the iPhone 16. It might have a review on it, and that review might say, Apple intelligence is underwhelming and ChatGPT voice is impressive. You can see how, when this is in the training data, and hopefully it appears often in the training data if you're ChatGPT, it's going to associate ChatGPT voice with the concept of being impressive, and it's going to associate the concept of, or the Apple intelligence with the concept of underwhelming. This is training data. There's digital PR we can do to make sure that this happens and gets out there. And then also for PR for search, we want to be building our brand reputation, our digital footprint, to get information about our brand and our products out there. And then building influencer relationships, creating thought leadership content, and expanding our footprint. And that's what the digital PR function will be about. Now, I call these content fragments for AI search. A content fragment is a semantically dense section of content on your website. Maybe it's a landing page, maybe it's an article, but we're not doing blog articles anymore for SEO. And I'd show you what those look like. That could be content widgets, you can call them, or I call them content fragments, that are designed for clarity and semantic density, like a table of contents, or a content summary, or a call-out box, or Q&A. Like, you want to make sure that you have direct answers on your pages, like in an answer box. You want to make sure that your pages are scannable and you have scannable elements that the AI can easily understand, like direct pros and cons for a product or a service or something like that. So AI can easily find it, understand what it is, and then quote your information and give you a source link. And then also clear comparisons. I'm not going to read through this, but basically it's a comparison between a Tesla Model 3 and a Ford Mustang Mach-E. What this comparison says on my content, and this will be on my website if I want AI to see it, is that Tesla offers a longer range, and it's giving some numbers that AI can use, and faster charging and quicker acceleration. This is a direct comparison that is relevant to a product search. I also want to point out that if you're hiring writers, like we used to have a writer, Allie, not her real name, not her real photo, but we hired her because she was good at writing, storytelling, editing, proofreading, all the traditional writing topics. Now we work with people like Erica, not her real name, not her real photo, but she has a different skill set in AI optimization, data analysis, community engagement, building a community around your brand, and then doing the doing the PR, the digital PR for AI, and then crafting CTAs that are aligned with the search intents that we're targeting. So this is the type of writer that we're hiring nowadays. Now, last thing I'm going to go over, because I don't want to monopolize the time on our session today, is that we've been doing a lot with interactive tools for decision support. What this is I think of it as new type of SEO content. SEO content used to be articles, blog articles. Agencies used to sell blog articles for SEO content. Now we're looking at interactive tools. There are a lot of advantages, like people have to come to your website to use an interactive tool. Google's AI overviews, AI mode cannot summarize an interactive tool, and they increase your client conversion rate, because you can imagine when somebody's using a pricing calculator or a needs assessment or a configuration tool or delivery estimator or a product comparison tool, you can dump them right into an application or request a sales call or a product page with a buy button on it when they're using your tool. This is a very simple example, like SEO ROI calculator that you can put on an SEO agency website. And the wonderful thing about these interactive tools is you don't need a developer. So if you're a marketer, you don't have to talk to developers like me anymore. You can create these interactive tools with a prompt similar to this one. You guys will get my slides, so you'll see this. And it's really just limited, these interactive tools, it's really limited to your creativity. So a lot of times, old school, the way we used to think about SEO content was basically we're putting together a content strategy and a content calendar with a bunch of topics for blog articles. That is old school. We're doing a lot more with interactive tools. And then lastly here, so I don't go over time, we have a PDF. This is all my prompts that I'm using to do the type of optimization that we're talking about today. So feel free to grab this PDF with this QR code. And you can also email me, dale@fireandspark.com, if you don't get this or if you have any questions. I am always happy to hop on a call and talk to folks about updating your existing content for AI, or the clients that you work with, updating their existing content for AI platforms. So I'm happy to do that. And that is my time. I'm going to throw it back to the panel.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, so make sure to grab that QR code. And if you did register on the Duda website, you will get an email with the slides. So make sure that if you're just joining us on YouTube, to make sure to register for the webinar on the Duda site if you haven't done that already. All right, so we did have a question come up during the during your talk, Dale, that I just want to talk about briefly, but also people watching, make sure to ask questions in the chat. I have some questions we're going to go through, but I also want to hear from you. So Hans Knopp asked, is AI mode available outside of the US? And I know the answer is no, because I'm Canadian, and you know, we always like look jealously over the border at all the neat things Americans get. So has anyone tried to access AI mode with a VPN yet? I have not given it a shot at this point. I'm curious, Dale. I mean, you're in the States.
No,
So
I
I'm sure you
haven't.
get all the fun
I
deals.
have
Yeah.
privileged access to it here in the
Yes, of
US.
course you do. Well, this weekend, actually, I'm gonna give it a shot and use my American VPN and see if I can get access to it. I mean, I can sit in my living room. I live so close to the border. I can sit in my living room and I'll say, "Welcome to USA" on my cell phone. So, like, technically, maybe I should be able to get it. We'll see. I will make sure to post on LinkedIn with my findings, because I think what's important for people is obviously we have a worldwide audience here. We had some people, you know, saying hello from all over originally in the chat, and I think one of the things that is frustrating about AI mode is that it isn't available everywhere. But I believe this is probably due to privacy concerns. So one of the first things, you know, before we get into talking about more of the agency side stuff, you know, for example, to use AI mode, you have to turn on web and app activity, which if you're in, say, the European Union, is not necessarily something you're going to be able to do or want to do. And so, you know, Dale in the panel, how do you think, sorry, my cat's about to make a foray through here. Come on, move along. How do you think this is going to impact AI mode worldwide if it requires that level of learning that Dale, you talked about, where they know that you're more technologically savvy? If you don't have that turned on, can AI mode actually be available with privacy concerns that are held up by things like GDPR? Is that even possible? Dale, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, what I would say is Google is going to roll this out everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there will be different levels of privacy available. You know, we're at a disadvantage as consumers in the US because we don't have a strong protection. So that's why they get to use us as guinea pigs. But they will roll this out everywhere. It'll just function a little bit differently.
Yeah, Juliana, do you want to talk about like what you think we might see with AI mode and privacy protections?
I would say that, there we go. I would say that there is an EU AI Act coming that is going to start being enforced from this year. I'm going to talk a lot about this on my newsletter, but I think in Europe, based on my experience, people are not very keen to turn on web and app activity. But since we are so ready to put 2 gigabytes of PII data into ChatGPT, I don't think we will have any problems turning on AI mode here in Europe. I think what the LLMs actually help people is to be, I guess, less, I don't want to say careful, but less precious about the stuff that they share online. But of course, it's as Dale said, and I agree with him, Google is going to roll it out in Europe. That's the truth.
Yeah.
But
Sia, did
we'll
you have
see.
anything to add to that? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to agree with you, Anna, there. It's just seeing how people are using LLMs to have like full conversations and sharing, yes, all sorts of personal information. I can definitely see that being the way that the, you know, behavior is changing as we're thinking about search. And so, yeah, I definitely see that happening with AI mode as well.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that is top of mind, and actually I just had a conversation with my team this morning before this webinar, and it's something we talk about all the time. For context, you know, I work at an agency, lots of us here, we deliver services to clients. And so when we're talking to our clients, but I'm also thinking about the in-house people, you've been doing SEO a certain way for a long time. You've been using this certain set of SEO tools. So now you have to come back and say, hey, remember everything I told you about SEO? Never mind. This is how we're doing it now. And SEO isn't dead, you know, it's just changing. And so how do you change that mindset, especially when it comes to setting budgets? Because, you know, maybe the budget amount is the same, but you're hiring different people, as you mentioned. You're hiring a content editor as opposed to a content writer. Maybe you need to change, you need to invest in different tracking tools, for example. So you're not going to be paying for traditional rank tracking anymore, because what is traditional rank tracking? Maybe you're paying for AI tracking type tools. You know, how do you talk to leaders about this? Or are you seeing that leaders are already super hyped about AI and they're already like fully on board with this? Dale, do you want to start us off?
Well, they're definitely not on board with it because they don't understand it, is what I've seen. And I get this question all the time. And we're always looking at strategies around like what the leaders actually care about. So you could imagine you're a marketer and your leaders are asking you to optimize for a vanity keyword, and they want rank tracking reports, and all they care about is traffic up to the right. And I like, it really depends. Not everybody can have this conversation, but I love having a direct conversation where I'm like, well, actually what you hired me to do is to grow your business, grow revenue. You hired me to do customer acquisition. That's what I'm focused on. And I'm focused on that because it's the right thing. And it's hard for me to do the right thing when you keep asking me to do the wrong thing. Now, you can say that much more politely than I just said.
I would probably
But
say it about the
educate
same
them
that
on
you
what
just
the
said.
right thing is. And it's all about drawing a direct line between what they really want, what they know they really want, and what you're doing. And making that just crystal clear to them. Because you say, well, wait a minute, you don't want to grow revenue? You don't want me focused on customer acquisition? Okay, like I could just go in a room and do rank tracking, well, but I might as well be like eating burritos back there. So it just depends on if you can have that type of conversation. And then two more tips I'll just give really quickly. Another argument is maybe they don't care about content marketing or SEO channel, and there's some other channel they care about, like a performance channel. Then you want to help them understand how organic supports the performance channel. So we can think of organic as branding, So basically like a brand initiative, and brand initiatives help
Yep.
help our performance channels. So that's another thing. And then the last one I'll say that has worked for us is understanding which of your competitors your leadership is focused on, and basically tell them, hey, our competitors eating our lunch. Okay, why? Because they've given up on this keyword targeting idea that was dead 5 years ago. I was, oh, well, what are they doing? Well, here's what they're doing, and we should be doing it too, because they're focused on customer acquisition. We should be too, instead of your name or whatever vanity keyword it is.
Yep. Yep. And I wonder too if there's something about how, how SEOs, I mean, obviously my personal thing is always about SEOs having better reports. And I wonder too if there's something about like the reports that we have created for the last X number of years have almost like set us on this path where we're being disadvantaged now by constantly focusing on that up and to the right thing. So, Santi, Juliana, when you're thinking about the reports that you're providing to clients, like, is there something that you're changing in terms of what you are, Santi, internally at Duda, or, with your previous work on the consulting side, and Juliana, like, what kinds of things are you including in reports and dashboards now that you wouldn't necessarily have included before?
I'm happy to answer, or if you want to go first,
go for
Sandy.
it. Yeah, start us
First, go for it.
To answer to this question, I have to go back to what you asked Dale earlier too. Like I'm not an SEO person. I do digital marketing, so SEO, I'm responsible also for SEO. But from a data science perspective, which is mostly what I do, I try to look at things very holistically. So I always consider search to be part of the customer experience. I don't think it's something isolated that lives in this bubble that I know maybe it looks like that, but it's really not. So I always like to work on a CRO project, for instance, always with the SEO team. Like I cannot see these things not functioning together. So from my experience, even if companies call customer experience, just what happens on a website or in an app, experience today is really shaped by interpretation. And a lot of the stuff that we are thinking or saying or have been saying for the last 10 years are mostly things describing an internet that was like 15 years ago, right? But today, interpretation and the way people interpret the brand or understand the brand is, I guess, affected by prior exposure to the brand, by social framing, by different embedded cues in a platform. So what I'm trying to say is basically everything that makes a brand be or exist today, it's kind of like rolling around relevance. And this relevance, basically, it's just narratives that people have across decentralized platforms. Like that's something that has been happening. And this is kind of like what forces people to have a CRO and an SEO person work together with the data person, together with the product person. So I'm all up for that. And I love the fact that the people that are getting involved in digital marketing right now must have a technical background, must have some sort of affinity or understanding of brand marketing. So I really love this for SEO and digital marketing. So I think we were maybe a bit too comfortable in our own, chairs. So I think it's everything that Dale said earlier, and I kind of fit with it. So when I show report, if you read my newsletter, you know that I really hate dashboards and reports. I'm more of a story person. So what I try to do is kind of show in perspective, like what's going on. And I think, again, like the best visualization I would use to show these relationships between search, between experience, between what people are saying is always going to be a knowledge graph. Because knowledge graphs can show you dynamically the impact of how search happens across channels, about how you are perceived in social media, and how you're doing it from a data perspective. So that's what I would do. I would do a knowledge graph. That's a very long-winded answer.
No, it's a great answer. And I think you just had a post on LinkedIn actually about knowledge graphs. Did I
I'm
not see that?
I'm obsessed with knowledge graphs, yes.
Yeah,
It's just so easy for anybody.
Definitely check out Juliana's LinkedIn, because there was a great knowledge graph related post and like creating one. And it was
I had fun.
Yeah.
I have too much fun with stuff like this, just nerding out. But knowledge graphs are great, and it's an easy way for any stakeholder to understand how narratives and cultural spaces are being built. So I won't try to go data science and be too nerdy, but yes, that's my answer.
Santi, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. The way that we have been reporting and talking about SEO has definitely changed a lot, even in just like the last year. I mean, I will echo what Juliana said about, doing more storytelling around the data. So, we're looking at and seeing the numbers and seeing, okay, we're seeing a drop in traffic or conversion, or not traffic specifically, and rankings for things like top of funnel pieces of content. And so being able to like explain and tell the story around why those things are changing and how those answers are being answered directly in the search results. But then also like shifting what we're actually looking at when it comes to SEO, and not just looking at traditional metrics. We're also looking at things like, are we, appearing in those other places? Is our brand being mentioned in enough places? And then looking if that correlates to more branded searches, because as we're going through the zero-click, universe, we're realizing that a lot of our content is being consumed offsite. It's being consumed on Reddit. It's being consumed in, various different publications. And so we've really focused, and we've had to obviously like look at our skills and look at the way that we're approaching content. It's not just writing, blog posts like it used to be. It's not just targeting those, high volume, answer the question that, is, the easiest competition, or all the things that we used to do. It's really about, are we providing unique value when we are creating content? Are we creating content that's just for SEO, or are we creating content that's, truly going to provide value? Is that more middle and bottom of the funnel type of content that's not going to get answered in search? So I guess that's kind of like a two-pronged approach. It's like, yes, we aren't ignoring SEO. We're still creating content that we believe will drive people to our site. But at the same time, we're separating things. We're looking at like, where is our brand appearing? Are we getting enough mentions in different areas off the site so that we can drive those branded searches? And is that translating to more branded searches? So it's definitely a lot more nuanced than I think what we were used to, where it's just like, okay, great, we've targeted these keywords and we're ranking for them and it's great. But now there's a lot more nuance, a lot more storytelling, and those dashboards that we used to love like just aren't telling that story by themselves like I think a lot of us liked in the past.
Agreed. I actually want to go to a question from the viewers. So Caitlin Nelson had a fantastic question, which is actually perfect after discussing this. So we're seeing our blog show up as sources in AIO. I see Duda's actively publishing blogs. Dale, curious if there's more nuance to your comments about blogs having no place in future SEO strategy. Before everyone deletes their blog posts, what do we got here?
Well, so absolutely there is more nuance. The reason why I'm railing against blog articles is what I'm really railing against is keyword targeting. And I'm railing against content calendars that are just lists of topics for blog articles. Content marketing before SEO, because we've had content marketing for 100 years now, was a lot more than just keyword targeted blog articles. There was a period of time, let's say the last 10, 15 years, where marketing was easy because all you had to do was hire a writer, give them a list of topics, and they would just bang out articles. You would get free traffic from Google. Everybody was happy. I'm happy that that time is over. Like it never really made a ton of sense. So instead, what it's being replaced by is content marketing, where you get to think about what is the right format for your customer. Where do your customers hang out? How can you do partnerships with those communities or those forums or those publications, whatever that is? And then, so I really want to think beyond the blog article and start doing content marketing. And then for those of us who are agencies selling services to clients, one of the services that we sold, but in some of us, not me, are still selling the service, is like selling blog articles. Yeah. And like that's going to go away. Like it should have gone away a long time ago, please. Because we're just not really serving the brands that we work with when SEO is synonymous with 10 blog articles a month. That's not content marketing.
I know it's people feel like there's like an input. You just you put the money in the marketing machine and then marketing comes out the other side. And I think that's always been a bit of a fallacy, but even more so now. Yeah.
Actually have a slide in the deck. I have a slide in the deck that says very big. I don't know who did this and said that basically content is just blogs. It's not just blogs. You have the website, you have the app, you have the images, you have all the stuff that you have on a platform. And I think I blame Neil Patel for that. It's just like all this obsession with blog articles. And I agree. I think for again, like I'm so happy that we got to this point because teams are working together. And it's like so much outside of the comfort zone. Because like as an agency, for me, the biggest hurdle is to get teams to work together. Because if I work on a CRO project, I definitely want to work with the SEO and PPC people because they're the people that are bringing me people to put in the funnel. I cannot optimize the funnel if I don't understand what happens before. And if I don't talk to the CRM people, I don't understand what's going on after. So how do I connect customer lifetime value with search, or how do I connect, different things with a PPC or whatever? So yeah, I really like the, if the blog stuff. Yes, I'm with that 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will add to that too that yes, we are still publishing a lot of blog posts as the Duda team, and it's not that I think blog posts are going away either completely. It's just that the way that we're thinking about them is different. It is not content for the sake of ranking. It is content that provides value, and that actually like goes back to like doing true content marketing. And one of the first like books that I read when I got into content marketing was Jay Baer's Utility, and it's like stuck with me forever. And I feel that his whole kind of thesis there was that you have to provide you have to help your customers, and that's the way that I was actually very, very glad too that we're thinking about content more in that way and less of like, okay, let's rank for specific keywords. It's really about getting back to the heart of what content marketing was always about, which is being able to be a resource and a guide and someone there for your customers. If that looks like a blog post and that's the right format for it, then that's great. But it might not be a blog post. It might be many other different formats. And so that's been actually kind of exciting, like I said, to get back to what I feel like made me excited about content marketing when I first got into it, and away from the keyword research and rankings and things that I felt like didn't translate as well to truly providing value and truly driving the outcomes that we wanted.
Yeah, we've had Google as an intermediary sitting between our content and our customers for so long, and we still do. And what we're talking about today is how to continue to optimize for Google even after they transition to AI. But there is another way to think about content marketing where you're serving an audience. A quick example, imagine like for me, I want to know the weather this weekend because I'm going out with my wife. I want to know if it's going to rain the whole time. When I think weather, I go to weather.com. That's just what I do. That's my habit. I'm in their audience. There is no intermediary. I didn't do a search. I just went directly to their audience. So if you had a website where maybe you wrote about SEO topics like we do, and you're into that, like you might hear about AI mode from a friend of yours. Do you go to Google or do you go to Dale's website? Because Dale is the one that you trust on AI topics, and you want to know what Dale thinks about Google's AI mode. Like that is building an audience, building a community around your content. And that's kicking Google to the curb and saying, I know you guys want to go from $3 trillion company to $5 trillion company, but I, as a content marketer, don't work for you anymore. So you're going to have to find another way to do it. I'm building my own audience. I'm going directly to my audience. And I'm building a community around my brand. They're going to come to me and they're not even going to ask you permission.
You're doing such a great job of setting up the next question. So from Hans Knapp again, traffic was the KPI for 20 years for SEO. What is the next one? Which, and it's funny because I'm going to talk about direct traffic for a moment because direct traffic has always been this, well, we don't know what happened, whatever. But, Dale, you just talked about how direct traffic can be a sign of building your brand. So, in terms of the KPIs that you're thinking about, those top level metrics, what are the ones that you're going to be using? And it might not be next 20 years. Let's not, I don't even know what's going to happen in the next 2 years, much less 20. But what are we thinking about now for those top level KPIs, taking this AI stuff into consideration? Dale, you want to start us off?
Well, I will. So I always start with revenue and customer acquisition, whatever that means for you. It might mean demos booked. It might mean schedule a call. It might mean download the app. It might mean swipe my credit card, hit the pay button. Like you got to start there, the buy button. But then there are others like, branded traffic could be a proxy for successful branding campaigns. And we should be thinking of zero-click search as a branding opportunity. And we can measure that. But ultimately, it really comes back to conversions and revenue.
Yep. And then for SEOs too, I think because SEO has always been treated as sort of a top of the funnel thing, they may not have actually, been involved in those conversations, despite the fact that we know that they should have been. But, maybe the SEO department's always been sort of an afterthought, and this person's like, I can never get a seat at the table for those conversations. How do you get there? How do you get at those metrics? Do you want to, Juliana, you're the one who deals with this stuff all the time. Why don't you, how do people get that seat at the table?
You don't really get to do that. Like, I think, again, the biggest hurdle that I have to deal with on any project that I work with is kind of like get people to work together. And I don't agree with Hans. He said that revenue is not only SEO, it's everybody's responsible for revenue. Everybody's responsible for it. It doesn't matter what you do in a company. You are responsible for revenue. And I think the best way, I can only speak of it as a consultant. I think it's important to have conversations with these teams and understand basically what's the decision-making process. I speak about this a lot in my newsletter, having like accountability for the decisions that you make and for how you're going to use this data. And the best way I found to work with this is to get basically CRO teams that have all the exposure to revenue data and conversion to work with SEO and have a shared dashboard that when you run an experiment or when you have a campaign or when you publish a new feature or you publish a new something on the website or you run ads or whatever, you have this shared place that you can both look. So you both have the same picture. For me, always customer lifetime value has been like the one metric that tells the whole story and that covers acquisition and retention. So that's what we kind of like, I guess, need to do back to Dale's point, is to kind of like break the barriers so SEO people have access to this revenue data, because it's a small part from the customer acquisition cost. You also want to know what's the cost to serve, what's the cost, for salaries and overhead. There's so many things that go into that acquisition cost. So it's important to have kind of more like a democratization of this data, so you know how SEO or a specific thing impacts. But this is a lot of lobbying and politics that has to happen in companies, and it's more of a change management thing that we as consultants, we can only get to a certain point to get to. So yeah, to be discussed.
but there's value. So you've got to decide as an agency consultant or maybe an in-house SEO, you've got to decide how valuable you want to be.
Exactly.
Like, you might be somebody who's really good at like fixing broken canonical tags, and that's cool because not everybody can do that. But instead, you might be somebody who knows how to grow revenue. Who's going to get paid more? Who's not going to get laid off? Who's going to get a new job when they do get laid off? Like, who's going to get promoted? Like, you tell me. But you get to decide.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
agree. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, and I would definitely say like that's the same on the internal side, is breaking down silos internally, making sure that your teams are talking to each other, and building those relationships with leadership so that they and having those conversations with leadership on like the value and the importance of this, so that getting everyone on the same page is just, I think, the most important aspect of this. And I think half of my job as a marketer is building relationships both internally and externally with customers. So I think that skill will become even more important as we're navigating all of this.
Yeah, and I wonder too if marketers are like, but I don't want to talk to people. I just want to do marketing. But tragically, marketing is people. I hate to break it to everyone. So yeah,
100%.
It's going to be a changing job for sure. Which actually brings me to another thought I had. Obviously we are sort of at the edge of talking about this. We're at the leading edge of where this is going. But generally, out in the world, do we think that this early mover advantage when it comes to AI, how close are we? Because you can be the first entrant into something. You get away with it for a little while, like the people who focused on SEO early got away with it for a while because there weren't a lot of other people competing, so it was really easy to do so. And I say this having worked in this field for 25 years, it used to be a lot easier to rank really well. Now it's a lot harder. So are we getting into, where are we at in terms of the life cycle of this? Is that early mover advantage close to closing, or do we think it's still wide open at this point? Anyone can jump in.
It's wide open. Because I remember the early days of SEO, I made a bunch of money, like cha-ching, because like the platforms were immature, so it was easy to manipulate rankings. And if you knew what you were doing, you put up some sites, make some affiliate income, and then, that doesn't work so well. So you start an agency and you start working for bigger brands. That's exactly where we are. The first pitch of the first inning for these AI search platforms. They are immature and easier to manipulate than the Google rankings were a year ago. And that will get harder. But man, if you can figure out what that loophole is and exploit it until they close it, like that's always been the case. And it's same thing with like performance channels like Facebook in the early days, AdWords in the early days. Now is the time to I was going to say make some money, but I didn't want to say make some money. Now is the time to make some money.
I think there's nothing wrong with saying make some money. I mean, we are in marketing for a reason. It's not just good for our health, right? Like ultimately, the whole point of this is to make some money for people. So there's nothing wrong with that. All right, Santi, do you have something to jump in on that?
Yeah, no, I would just totally agree that's it seems like we're very much in the early days, and we've also compared this to like the beginnings of Google, and I think there's nothing but opportunity here. So
Yeah, but I would also say that there's a lot of folks that think like websites as we know them are gonna be shut down. SEO is this, CRO is that. Like I can't, like I cringe every time I open LinkedIn. I have to like wash my eyes. But I would say that AI is not gonna steal your funnel. You gave up on your funnel when you started optimizing for keywords, optimizing for form field, optimizing for the most random things. So I think how you can make money and be good is to be ridiculously good at your schema, at your website structure, those JSON LDs. Just like invest, and just clean up your website and do great video, do great content, be, part of stuff. Like that's the only way you can actually win, to just be ridiculously good and outsmart everybody else. And I'm excited. Like I like where things are going. And but I would say a message to everybody listening is to take a statistics course and an AI course, because there's a lot of hype and there's a lot of like misunderstanding. Yes.
It sure did.
But I would say there's people like Dan Petrovich, like Michael King. These guys produce a lot of like content that's educational. Obviously Dale here as well. There's a lot of people that constantly work to educate everybody. And as you can see, none of them are hyped, which shows you that you shouldn't always trust the hype and be grounded and believe, but also test first and see how it goes for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think SEO has always been that, right? It's just like, this seems interesting, I'm going to try it out. So
you guys have
in the early
been
days
ahead.
when we were figuring out SEO, we made our own little niche websites and different things and then tried stuff out and saw what happened. So we're back to that again, I guess. So just getting towards the top of the hour here, I would love to think about, what is the one thing, if you were going to tell people for the next month, what is the one thing that they should really be focusing on in terms of, taking what we've talked about today and applying it to their workflow or something like that? Like, what is the one thing, Julianne, you mentioned things like the technical aspects of the website, JSON, LD, schema, etc. Is that like the one thing that you think people should take a look at on their website and say, okay, I don't have any schema, really should fix that up?
I mean, that would be, if you waited until I said that, then it's that's not your biggest problem right now. But I would say that companies should talk to their engineering teams to understand more about APIs and how information is retrieved. I really loved what Dale said in his presentation. The algorithm that AI mode functions on is not the ranking algorithm. It's very foundationally, structurally different than what we're used to. So again, data engineering is becoming very important, and have your technical SEOs and data engineers look into APIs and understand how you can structure information and content, and know I'm not talking only about blog posts, to be able to, be part of the story and be part of the results. So yeah, data engineering. That's my answer.
And take a stats class. I don't know if my stats for geographers from 1995 is still going to be relevant, but hopefully.
It would help. It will help distinguish things. The stats class is good. It's good for us.
Is it?
It is. It helps you grow thick skin.
Santi, what's the one thing that you think people should focus on for the next, say, 30 days?
I mean, Yeah, I'd say if, like, especially if you're like on a content team like myself, take a hard look at like what you're doing for content. Are you, are you still stuck doing, keyword research and rankings, or are you taking a hard look at your audience and understanding what they need, where they're spending time, and connecting with the right people internally to make sure you know those things. And if you're not talking to your PR team, do it. Make sure that those teams are aligned. If you're not talking to, if your teams are siloed, you should start talking to each other and up leveling that those relationships.
Awesome. And Dale?
Well, I would say that SEO is not a technical discipline anymore. It's also not a content discipline anymore. It's a marketing discipline. And marketing starts with understanding your customers. A lot of times as digital marketers, we hide behind analytics, GA or keyword lists in Search Console. And we feel like we understand our customers because we know what they type into Google before they land on our website. And that is not understanding your customers because you never had a conversation with a customer. And so the one thing I would think is how can you have a conversation with customers to understand what they're looking for, to understand the why behind those keywords that you see in your analytics, and to understand like the information that they need when they're making a buying decision for a product or service like yours. And if you can build that habit into your process, like you're no longer a technical SEO, you're no longer like just a content person, like you're now a marketer. And that's really the direction that things are headed.
That's awesome. Thank you. All right. So we have a few minutes left. I just want to finish off by saying, where is the best place for people to find you, follow you, read more of your thoughts? So Dale, let's start with you. What's the best place for people to get in touch with you and check things out?
Well, I publish on LinkedIn, so feel free to hit me up, Dale Bertrand, Fire and Spark at LinkedIn. But also email me directly, dale@fireandspark.com, all spelled out. Happy to take a look at your content or give you 30 minutes to tell you what I think.
Great. Yeah, and people take Dale up on this. People like when he says this, he actually does mean this. This isn't just, yeah, sure, I'll look at your content, never gets back to you. Actually does. So thank you for doing that as a real public service to the community for sure. And Juliana, you have your fantastic newsletter. Why don't you tell us more about that?
Yeah, you'll find me on LinkedIn, but my content on LinkedIn is memes and rants. So you might probably want to go to my Substack, and it's Juliana Jackson, Substack.com. It's maybe you guys can put it because I didn't want to connect my YouTube. Go from LinkedIn, you will find it there. Yeah, and if you like long form content about data science, AI, and digital marketing, you might like my newsletter. And or listen to me and Simo rant more on Standard Deviation podcast.
I have to say your newsletter, like I was saying this backstage before we got started, it's one of the newsletters, like when it's published, I always share it with my team, and every Thursday, so today we actually have a meeting with the whole strategy team to talk about stuff, and your newsletter comes up all the time. So yeah, it is a great resource. People should subscribe to it if you don't already. So
I'll put this on my LinkedIn. Thank you.
And Santi, I know that Duda has their DudaCon coming up, but is there anything, and I'm going to mention that as well, but is there anything else? Where can people follow more of your thoughts on this?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and also, yeah, the Duda blog, and the Duda webinars. We're constantly, my team and I are, constantly writing and sharing information about what's changing. Like, we're tracking AI search like crazy here, so we'll have more of these webinars. DudaCon is a huge one that's coming up. So yeah, sign up for to get notified about all of these. So yeah.
Yeah, and let's end things off by talking about DudaCon. So the next big event is DudaCon, so that you can find out more about that at DudaCon, DudaCon.duda.co. I imagine the Duda team will toss a link in there. Oh, and there was a question from someone, will recording be shared later? Yes. If you signed up on the Duda website, you will get the recording, so fear not, and you also get the slides. So register, it is free. It's July 8th to 10th. There are going to be 25 speakers. It's all online. I believe it's all recorded as well, because, time zones are a real thing that people need to think about. So it's going to be bad for somebody, no matter what times you schedule stuff at. So yeah, please do check that out. And that is a fantastic resource that Duda provides to the digital marketing community. And I really appreciate how much information these webinars have been providing to the community as well. So just to end things off, so my name is Dana Di Tommaso. If you want to hear more about my thoughts, I'm also on LinkedIn, more than I probably should be. Thanks again to Duda and the team for organizing this, and Anton behind the scenes for sharing ridiculous memes and links. And we'll catch you on the next webinar. Thanks again, everyone, for attending. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Oh, we're still live. Anton, you have to shut it off.
And we're still live.
We're still live.
We should do both.
Keep moving. Keep moving.